Hello, everyone. Very good morning and good evening to all of you. This is Megha. I head the global marketing function at Course5 Intelligence, and I'm your host for the next 1 hour. Welcome and thank you for attending this webinar on analytics-driven digital trading desk presented by Lenovo and Course5 Intelligence jointly. Now, moving towards a brief introduction about Lenovo and Course5 Intelligence. I'm sure everyone is aware of Lenovo. Lenovo is a $43 billion global technology giant with over 52,000 employees, and its customer base is spread in 160 plus countries. And it is also a global Fortune 500 listed company. About Course5 Intelligence, well, at Course5, we support digital transformations enabled through analytics, insights, and artificial intelligence for our clients. Now, I want to bring your attention to a couple of housekeeping items. Recording will be available on our website, www.course5i.com. We will also be emailing the recording of this webinar and the link to you all within the next 2 days. To continue the conversation on Twitter, even post the webinar, please use the hashtag #DigitalTradingDesk. You can ask questions at any time using Q&A panel on your screen. You can see the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. We have a time frame of 1 hour for this webinar, including presentation and Q&A, and we hope you all will stay with us throughout the webinar. With this, let's introduce you all to our presenters for the day, Shannon Murray and Anis Merchant. Shannon is Director for Business Optimization and Site Stability at Lenovo. With a total of 23 plus years experience, Shannon has been wearing several hats in Lenovo's challenging environment to drive P&L improvements and analyze customer needs to obtain actionable insights since past 8 years. This has allowed her to develop a strong background in e-commerce, particularly in cross-functional project management of innovative E2E initiatives. As an innovative analytical director, Shannon has spearheaded several key changes to e-commerce at Lenovo to increase revenue, including web platform migrations and consumer-facing initiatives. Anis Merchant has over 20 plus years of experience with a strong background in retail, technology, CPG, telecom, insurance, and media. And at Course5 Intelligence, he leads the global digital and insights vertical. In his current role, his core focus is to drive and enable digital transformation across Course5's key clients by leveraging analytics, insights, and artificial intelligence. Shannon and Anis will give the presentation now. Over to you, Anis.
Thank you for the introduction, Megha, and kicking off today's webinar. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the exciting topic of how you should think about orchestrating a successful digital trading desk during the critical selling season. Boy, oh boy, the industry is transforming every day with various changes and impacts from external and internal forces to the organization. It is a 24/7 focus one needs to have to be successful in the age of transition. The demands from customers are forcing brands and organizations to think differently, leverage the surroundings, and create an experience for such customers. However, it is not just the customers, even competition, also known as frenemies, are leading organizations to enable creative strategies and tactics. These are being drawn from the parallel universes. From our perspective, organizations are focusing on 3 core areas. First, how they can convince a customer at every stage of purchase decision-making process. Second, effectively able to sell the product, services, or solution desired for the customer. And third, ensure that during purchase and across the usage cycle, the experience is pristine to ensure brand loyalty and advocacy. If you go back about 5 to 6 years ago, the critical events in a year which organizations would focus on would be 6 to 8 maximum in a year. However, in the last couple of years, it has almost become a 52 weeks affair for the organization to gain the attention of the customer. The reason for that, from the studies run in the recent times, customers today spend much time on the digital media, irrespective of the form factor, to search, evaluate, gather information, and make a purchase. Depending on the category you are focusing on, each of these stages can be either time sensitive or the customers can take time in making a decision. Many of these decisions are also based on occasions for whom the product is being evaluated or the service being evaluated. That is for own self or for someone else. The focus is to maximize the attention and gain traction from the targeted customers. It is no rest or breathing room, and my heart goes to each one of you on multiple things you need to juggle. Well, coming to things to juggle, the critical ones are listed here. Each of these areas can be directly controllable or need to be managed via a partner or channel network to ensure the alignment and asynchronous engagement and experience. If you double click on each of these areas, there are many more things need to be planned. Each of these sub areas are interlinked and need to work in a symphony to gain the right attention and result in the end goal you seek to achieve. Questions we often get asked is, which ones can we deprioritize? Well, the answer is no. You cannot afford not to focus on it. However, you can prioritize and spend efforts on things which need attention for the immediate action as well as the outcomes you want to focus on. This also doesn't mean that you are single-handedly responsible to drive this. It is a teamwork with multiple other legs coming together to get the objectives aligned. Well, it's not just teams who need to come together. Like an orchestra, there are different instruments to come together for a symphony. For a perfect symphony to align, each of these elements need to play their part, aligned with each other. Even if one note goes off track, the entire sound would be unpleasant for the audience. I did take the symphony and orchestra too far. My alternative career would be to learn to play an instrument and be a musician. However, that's not going to happen today. Coming back to reality, each of these areas, including your MarTech, data, and other investments, needs to align and integrate as part of this plan. There are many split decisions moments while orchestrating these different elements due to non-controllable external elements like competition or customer or partner requirements impact or change the plans. And hence, an effective trading desk would really enable an organization to go ahead and be successful. A trader sitting on the trading desk is also in a similar situation, where he or she is overwhelmed with information and needs to take a decision, keeping the current and future prospects in mind. A good trader is someone who's able to consume all the information and data, leverage technology, work with other partners and teams to make an appropriate decision. This is a good segue to give you a sneak peek on why and how Lenovo has set up a digital trading desk. As Megha mentioned earlier, Lenovo is a global organization and a $43 billion organization, and its focus is there to go ahead and be one of the leading technology company in the world and ensuring the confidentiality. We would be sharing certain details at a certain depth, but if you have more questions, please do list them in the Q&A section. Before we deep dive on how Lenovo is today, I think it will be better if Shannon can go ahead and give a quick background of what is Lenovo and the background of Lenovo's e-commerce. Shannon?
Hey, thank you, Anis. Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Murray, and I'm going to talk a little bit right now about the background of our Lenovo business. First of all, I don't know if you're all aware, but back in 2005, Lenovo purchased IBM's PC division. That occurred in 2005. Lenovo as a company, though, existed prior to that, primarily in the Asia Pacific region, and was operating under the company name of Legend. But that based on the company's strategy and where they wanted to go, you really can't be a legend and be a computer. We are definitely a business that resonates on change. And so in 2005, not only did we transform by purchasing IBM's PC division, which is their Think brand, which many people still recognize today as one of the best-in-class PCs for a lot of businesses. And then in 2006, we actually had a visionary join Lenovo, and that was Ajit Sivasan. I'm not getting paid to say this. Ajit Sivasan is our vice president of e-commerce at a worldwide level. And Ajit came in and realized right away that if we were going to go head to head with Dell, HP, and Apple, we were going to have to transform. And it was a decision that was made at that time that we needed to base our business decisions on what the data was telling us, not what our gut instinct was telling us, but what the data was telling us. And he has built over time the building blocks that has gotten us to where we are today. And that is that we are currently represented as an e-commerce business in 30 countries. We don't only support a business to consumer relationship, we also do this for our B2B customers. And we're also now even entering into other non-traditional e-commerce relationships, whereas we're entering into marketplaces and being the merchant of record on in stores like eBay, Rakuten, Newegg, Amazon. So that's where our journey has taken us to this point of time. But it all stems from someone recognizing that we just can't come in here with an idea. We need to have ideas, but we also need to have data, and data that's going to give us what our next action is going to be. So if we can go to the next slide. And I believe this is where Anis is going to speak.
Sure, Shannon. Thanks for an amazing introduction to Lenovo. The legend to Lenovo creates a legend. Just a small piece here. Yeah. So I'm sure all of you on the call and the webinar today have seen this in the past. This is not new. This was published by Harvard Business Review in 2007. And it was part of the famous book, Competing on Analytics by Thomas Davenport. Now, in our humble experience, what we have seen is that organizations, when we engage or they are in the analytics or the data transformation journey, are at different stages. And what we have seen is that each client, whether they're the top 3 or the top 4 in their respective verticals, are even at different levels and not necessarily at the stage 5, which is the analytics competitor. And we work across clients to help them mature from one stage to a different one. And where in the Lenovo's journey, what we have seen over the years, that today Lenovo is at between stage 3 and stage 4. Now, an organization moving from one stage to another brings in disproportionate value to the business. And these disproportionate value you would see in the further slides. And kind of talking about the scale in this journey which Lenovo has achieved today is you can see some of these numbers, but if I have to summarize, and I will not get down in reading each of these numbers, but if I have to summarize, there are three critical things which are a key takeaway from here. One is that today analytics initiatives are measurable to drive the top line impact. The adoption of all the analytics initiatives is pretty high within the organization. And a unified view of the business is today enabling Lenovo and its teams to go ahead and have a unified and a holistic view of the business. Shannon, you want to add anything to this?
No, I think that's a pretty accurate summation.
Okay. Shannon, over to you on the next one.
Okay. So the question that I'm certain that you're all wondering is, okay, why did we do this? And I know on the slide it says, okay, overall strategy and market drivers. I would say, and I think anybody who's in the world of e-commerce knows that really our external environment, market drivers are helping with formulating our overall strategy. So I would kind of inverse those two, because market drivers are going to drive our strategy. And it's helped shape how we approach attacking the market. And so if we go to the next slide. There are three fundamental driving forces why Lenovo has adopted what we're doing here from an e-commerce strategy. And one of them being how the marketing evolution, our digital generation, and our customer experience. So if we go to the next slide. If we take a look at how marketing has evolved over time, if you had sat with anybody on our team before, you've probably heard the expression spray and pray. And that really is pretty much when we first entered into the e-commerce arena, that we were playing in that space. We were putting stuff out there, and because we didn't have the mechanism to measure, we weren't really certain how things were performing. And so it really was, we were basing a lot of how we were going to go to market with a strategy on our gut instinct. But as time went by and tools and technology were becoming available to us, we were able to get more of a prescriptive ability to dial in and peel back the layers of the onion to determine what it is that our customers were thinking and how we could hit their hot buttons that would get them over the fence and joining Lenovo. So that's where you see us going from digital marketing to digital engagement. So let's go to the next slide. And then in addition to, we're seeing this evolution of marketing, people are changing. Their expectations of what they want from e-commerce business is different than people we have dealt with historically. We find that, the people that we're dealing with today, they're always connected. They're connected through their laptop, their phone, their tablet. They're always connected. They're different in that they want to be in a communal kind of setting and inclusive of things. They're self-expressive. I mean, come on, how many people are on Facebook or Snapchat? They're engaging all the time. And they're very trusting of others who are like they are, and we're finding that because of that, again, that changes how we're going to go to market. That is evolving our strategy. So if we go to the next slide. And taking those first two elements has identified for us a very critical piece, the customer experience. And the customer experience starts when we're just even thinking about the product that we're going to bring to market. But how are we going to bring it to market? With our demand generation, where we're going to put that into market, whether it's through a direct communication with the customer, or is it through an indirect method if we're going out to eBay, Rakuten, Amazon, and then following that customer through the journey of once they make a decision that they're going to commit and get on board with a Lenovo product. What is our communication path that we're taking them through? Are we torturing them with an experience, or are we delivering a best-in-class experience? Because we know that we can't just have someone come and purchase from us. We have to deliver value to them throughout the entire experience, or all of this is for naught, because we spend a lot of time and effort and money bringing people in, that when we get them here, we want to keep them coming back to Lenovo, because we don't just now represent PCs. Our ecosystem includes Motorola phones. It includes our consumer product line, which is our idea products. It includes our ThinkPads, which are that's our core product. And if you're in small business, we offer workstations and we also offer servers. So when we bring people into Lenovo, we recognize that if we fail at any one aspect of this cycle, we may be losing that customer forever. And again, resonating, it may have all been for naught if we have it come apart during the customer experience. Anis, you're going to go to the next slide?
Sure. So I think leading on to Shannon's thought and what Lenovo's perspective is today about customer experience, I think one of the big steps which as an organization Lenovo has taken on is not ending the experience only while the purchase ends. It's taken it further, where the customer who's bought the product or is experiencing the product, how can you profound the experience during the entire usage? Because the end goal is to create advocacy and loyalty. Today, as we spoke earlier, the brand advocacy is a big question mark to ensure that the customer gain is gained for lifetime and not just for that particular purchase. And hence, at Lenovo today, what we see Lenovo really focusing on is also really engaging with customer, not with an intention to sell more, but to ensure that the customer is happy, and more importantly, is proud of the ownership which they have acquired through Lenovo's product. And I think if you see through some of the strategies, whether it's around digital marketing or it's the engagement or changes within the support side, it has really impacted the customer ecosystem, and we can definitely see through the measures of NPS or CSAT. So, yep, Shannon, back to you.
Okay. And then if we go to the next slide. Letting everything populate. Anis mentioned something earlier about that it's not just about putting something up on your website. it's a bunch of different components coming together. It's people, it's data, it's technology. All of these things have to interact together. Whereas in the past, a lot of these things, like we had teams and teams acting in silos, not coming together, not collaborating, and not sharing the findings that are the output of some of the analytics or some of the experiences that customers are having. We had to change how we were operating. And listed on this page are, I think the 3 building blocks that really should be smashed together, because we cannot operate independently of one another. All the teams must come together, and all of the teams must be working together, and in most cases, the analytics are being supported either by some of these functional teams, or we are very fortunate that our leader believes in providing us with an analytics and reporting team, that we're getting the output of what we're being measured against. To understand how we're moving the needle, and how we have to go back and tweak it. And we're doing this real time, and we're utilizing technology. Like, for example, I don't know how many, I'm certain many of you are familiar with Test and Target, but we also have recently started to use a wonderful tool called Evergage, which enables us to serve up an experience to a customer from an understanding of our analytics as to who this customer is and what they might be more compelled to want to see, and provide them with the experience that they want, not the one we want to serve up to them, but the experience that they want. And all of these things are coming together, and the outcome is next page. All of the things that, if you're a business leader or you're in e-commerce, you want to see the needle moving in that direction. Our revenue has gone up I'll share this, 30% year over year. Our customer experience, our net promoter score has gone up exponentially. It's all because of these 3 building blocks coming together and sharing what needs to be shared amongst the group, so that we can take these things and act in real time. Now, you'll probably say, okay, well, is that something that is feasible? Well, and are you going to get it right all the time? The answer is no. But you know what? Having all of these things coming together and being able to act nimbly. If you're gonna fail at something, you're gonna fail fast, and guess what? You're gonna pivot, and you're gonna move on, and you're gonna move on to your next experience, your next challenge. And again, you're gonna be either faced with success or potential failure. But again, if you're failing fast. And then in terms of some of our operational outcomes, well, the predictable outcomes, that's something actually, again, that has been instrumental in how we're attaining our revenue, how we're driving a better customer experience, because we're able to identify who the customer is when they're coming into our stores. And we're serving them up the right experience. We're also then being able to get the inventory that is necessary for that kind of demand or appetite that customers might have. I think what I might do is have Anise talk to some of like the product bundling, because I know Course5 has been very instrumental in assisting our 4P team on identifying what the products are that we need to put together to go to market, and then being able also to have a predictable outcome as to, you know, what is our success rate going to be associated with this.
Thanks, Aaron. I can add 2 bits on that. Using data today, the interesting aspect which organizations can really look at, it's not just your standard product bundling. Where Lenovo is really thriving is really use the power of personalization and use the data from a product perspective to really drive effective conjoint and understand the competitive place to come up with an appropriate product bundling to different consumer needs. And that has also enabled not only to go ahead and increase revenue, but also try to learn to see what works, what doesn't work. There have been failures. It's not that everything has worked fine, but these failures have helped Lenovo and all of us to understand how customers behave. And it's not always data which will enable the understanding of a customer, because customer needs, as I mentioned earlier, are different at a different point of time. There may be an impulse buy, or they may be an there may be a true need which they're looking for a particular product. So yeah, just to sum up the overall webinar today, what Shannon, and thank you, Shannon, for an amazing point of view on how Lenovo has done it. It's all about how do you orchestrate the different elements, and definitely data and analytics enabling organizations to drive that has made companies like Lenovo be successful in the 52-week affair, which most of you are today in, to really be successful and have predictable outcomes. Megha, over to you.
Hi. Thank you, Shannon and Anise, for the wonderful presentation. And it was very, very insightful. And we do have a few questions from the audience. So let's take those up now. I have the first question from Mia Jones. The question is, what is the biggest impact you have seen in adopting a data-driven approach towards marketing or customer engagement? Anish, Shannon, you want to take that up?
Sure. Shannon, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, obviously, getting more prescriptive in determining first of all, which route to market. Like, is it going to be our SEO that we're going to focus on, SEM? We're even now testing in other areas, like with Facebook and radio. Believe it or not, we're going back to radio to identify opportunities as to markets that we haven't historically played in. It's enabled us, actually, because we do have an understanding of kind of the tried and true demand generation methods, enabled us to go and determine if there are other maybe traditional ways that we might consider marketing our product to consumers. So it's allowed us to be successful in those specific demand generation channels, and enabled us to be cost efficient, so that it has freed up funds that has enabled us to now take those funds and try things in new markets. Did I answer Mia's question specifically as it relates to that?
I am sure, Shannon, this was helpful.
Just adding on to what Shannon highlighted, and I'm sure each one of you today on the call is also experienced that budgets year on year are decreasing. And as Shannon alluded, it's even true for Lenovo. Today, it is a competitive market, and budgets are, I would not say challenged, but they are being effectively being managed, and this managed in a way that it can be allocated to a particular section which makes the maximum impact. not just looking at the past, and what Shannon also spoke about is that using data and analytics, they've been able to successfully not only optimize, but also bring in new experimentation. Typically, we see that other clients, when we talk to them, oh, we do not have budget to do new things, or we do not have budget to try new things. But it's interesting what Shannon kind of spoke about. It is very much possible. It's how you go ahead and align and use data to make informed decisions. Yes, at the end of the day, it is us as humans have to bring in that business acumen and also be creative and think about and try to learn. Even if the data is telling you something, try to learn and see if there is some experimentation on using your own creativity to allow you to test, learn, and either fail or succeed in that initiative. So I hope the perspective what Shannon and I have shared helps answer that question.
Great. Thanks, Anis and Shannon. I'll move on to the next question. It's from Shane Hayes, and it is, how are you measuring customer experience or quantifying CX? Anis, do you want to
that? Yeah, I think maybe I'll take that. So we utilize a number of different tools. We have a customer opinion lab where we're getting feedback from customers that are on the site. We also send out a questionnaire to customers to participate in their experience, which follows once they've received their purchase, as well as had the system in their hands and likely have been using it, approximately 14 to 30 days after they have received that product. So we're getting that feedback there. We also we have customers that chat with our representatives. So, we receive things that way. And again, all of this information is coming together, and we're utilizing Course5 and technology that's synergizing this information and telling us, okay, do we have, did the customer, when they were coming through our store, what was their experience like? And it's insightful. It's insightful things that enable us to go then and act upon. Like if we have something maybe that might have been misclassified on the site, or who's not familiar with a 404 or a 500 error, that's enabling us to understand, hey, we've got something that's going on the site. Also, we are very much participating in NPS. So that is a key a KPI of ours, and is something that resonates with us. I feel that a lot of the steps that we're doing before NPS is coming out is helping us to better move the needle on how that score is actually being surfaced in the end.
Great. That's very helpful, Shannon. I think that answers your question, Shane. So we'll move on to the next question from James. James is asking that my organization falls under stage 2 of data transformation model. How can I implement trading desk in existing ecosystem?
Sure, I can take that. Thanks, Megha. So James, I think this concept of digital trading desk is, if you kind of relate it to the orchestration piece, which I spoke about earlier, you can start small. You don't need to go ahead and get all teams aligned. I do understand that today, many organizations in a similar space as what you are, or at the same maturity at what your organization is, it's important to understand if you can show incremental impacts or incremental benefits of getting teams, technology, data together. So my recommendation is, if let's say Labor Day just went by and you have critical time coming in October and November, if you can set up an experimental center, which is combination of even 2 or 3 team members from different teams coming together, let's say your merchandising team, your pricing team, and even your online team coming together to go ahead and talk about 4 or 5 experiments or 4 or 5 key programs, which need not require any budgets, or if you all have budgets aligned to certain initiatives or to certain promotional activities, how do you bring the data, the technology, and also kind of put all the pieces in place together and really showcase and even understand whether your experimentation will work or no, because the more important aspect moving from one stage to another is also the culture. And that's what I have seen with clients and even at our organization, that today you can have the best of the technology, you can have the most sophisticated methods and the best of the team members, whether these are PhDs or data scientists, but it's the culture which really impacts the movement from one stage to another. And I think that's the most important and relevant part for any organization to consider if they're moving or they're thinking about setting up a digital trading desk. Additionally, as Shannon also alluded, it needs somebody at an executive level blessing, because you trying to go ahead and achieve within your own team to drive towards an objective or an outcome and win that. But if you do not have an executive buy-in, this will not gain a lot of traction. So these are some of my thoughts to you, which we have seen with other customers, that starting small, getting the teams and also getting an executive buy-in, saying that you do not need any more money, but it's just an experiment you would like to go ahead and work on, that allows organizations to really start small and really scale it up.
And I would just like to add what Anise is saying there. I have a team that sits with me and they do business insights. And I don't know where the people that are participating in this webinar are, where you sit in the organization. But the analytics and the insights team oftentimes nobody understands how critical that role is. People expect reports, but they don't understand sometimes that the complexity of how you put things together so that you can tell the story that needs to be told. And to Anisa's point, you need to have that advocate within the organization that gets what you're trying to do. Because it's not easy. And anybody who tells you otherwise is not being straight with you. And Anise, I think you can mirror what I'm saying. I mean, some of the asks that we have requested of teams, it's daunting when you think about the different sources of data that need to come together to synergize, to help you with telling the story that you need to tell. It's not easy. And to walk in the shoes of anybody who does reporting or analytics, they're big shoes to fill. And I don't know if anybody that's participating today is one of those individuals, but we understand what you go through day in and day out. And we appreciate the mountains that you climb.
And I think, Shannon, you bring in out a very good point, is the appreciation of the other side. It's bringing the team together. It's a team, even though they may not have you may have a direct responsibility to them, but really getting that analytics team together, or a partner like us, getting them together and really explaining the end goal or the end objective of what the business or you as an individual are trying to achieve. I think that's the most important factor, which I spoke about, the culture, the culture of inclusion and the culture of experimentation. If you can drive that, I think you can start small and be successful to great heights.
I agree.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
I think, Anish, Shannon, that was definitely helpful, and I'm sure James is clear with the answer. We have 10 more minutes. I'll take up one or two more questions. The next question is from Chris Matt. Chris is asking, for a highly competitive CPG space where both pricing and product differentiation is minimal, how can we use the digital trading desk for gaining maximum competitive edge?
Anise, I'm going to let you handle that one, and then I might add something.
Sure, Shannon. I think this perspective or this thought about, oh, my industry is different. Sorry, I'm going to be a little upfront here and be a little, direct. It's not true. The organizations need to stop thinking about that we are different. There are, as I said earlier in my webinar today, that there are parallel universes which you can learn from. Even if you take Lenovo's example, that the components which go to make a product are almost similar, which everybody else has. It's about the brand which a company holds, the way you go ahead and build an experience, and the way you are able to go ahead and ensure that the customer is engaged across the entire journey. Even if your product and the price, there is minimal differentiation. It all matters in terms of how you create and enable that experience for that customer and how good your brand stands to the commitment which you're making to the end customer. So those are the few perspectives that you shouldn't think that you're unique. And more importantly, you can leverage the parallel universes and the learnings from the parallel universes to really say that you can still create a lot of differentiation. You can still create a competitive desk. Today, if I'm looking at all the data which is there in the industry, CPG is getting highly competitive. In fact, with more digital enablement and groceries being bought online, CPG organizations like you, Chris, have to get more competitive and really need to have a pulse, real time of what's going on. And there are today white label products which consumers are buying more versus branded products. So how do you understand that white label products, what are really working for them, and why customers are buying more or consumers are buying more of that versus a branded product? So that's my only few things here. Shannon, you want to add a few things from your own humble experience of buying?
Anise, I agree with a lot of what you said. Chris, I think one of the things, again, data is king in this aspect. Taking a look and seeing where you're having your success and maybe where you aren't having your success in your demand generation channels. Where are you winning? Do you have more opportunity to go and win in some of where you are currently winning? Is it SEO? Is it SEM? Are you attempting to utilize non-traditional mechanisms? And then, after you get someone to your site, because as Anise pointed out, look, we're all in our industry, we're offering a laptop. Okay. I'm just going to, drill it down. It's a box and the box has different things. And you're right. The pricing isn't that different, but why is it that someone buys a Lenovo product? It's because of the experience that they have once they get here. Are we addressing that generation that we were talking about that is so inclined on the digital aspect, and serving up that experience to them, becoming prescriptive in how we're going to execute on that? And then once we have executed that with them, how is it that we're following them through this experience so that they come back? Because really, getting that customer in there that one time, okay, woohoo, props on that. It's when we get them to come back again. And that's something that you also have to consider as well.
Okay. I think
I hope I answered that, Chris. There's, something maybe that I didn't, but.
I'm sure you did, Shannon. Chris, if there's still any query, you can still ask us. Or else, in the interest of time, I'll move on to our last question. And post this also, if anyone has any questions, please email us and we will get back to you. So the last question is from Shane again, and Shane is asking, how do you execute towards the holiday season? What are some of the variables to consider? Shannon, do you want to take that up?
Well, the only thing, Shane, that I would like to add there is that, the holiday season is not just Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And, I think that taking a look at how you plan your holidays look, we don't plan just for the holiday. We plan for every single day. So if you're in our space, you better be game on, because we have something going on every single day. And that's how our world has become. We need to play every single day in this space. So that's one thing that maybe has changed from even 4 or 5 years ago.
Great.
I don't have anything to add, Megha.
Okay, perfect. All right. I think with that, we come towards the end of the webinar. Thank you all for joining us today and staying with us till the very end. I hope you all learned something new and found this useful. We will be emailing you a recording of this webinar for your reference. With that said, do feel free to reach out to us for any questions at any point. You can see Anis's email ID on the screen. You can email him at anis.merchant@course5i.com. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Anis. It was a great webinar, and thank you all again. We look forward to hearing from all of you. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and a good evening for the others who join us from different locations.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
All right,
Shannon,
thank you
for your time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.